You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Wednesday the 3rd of July 2013. Intervention in Gaddafi's Libya didn't solve the problem, did it? Too bad benefit ban for non-English speakers doesn't extend to education. Foster mum's drunken asylum-seeking thug of 26. Foreign mafia move in on Italy. Mandela's legacy is Boer's death. They never learn, Dutch reporter raped in Cairo's Tahrir Square. Syrian Catholic priest beheaded in front of cheering crowd. Thought for the day, is it me or them? And finally, over the hill, never. Just a note to Freeman 8128 when I stated that most of Croatia was Muslim, and of course I slipped up on my research and he's right, Croatia is predominantly Catholic. But there is a 1.5% old census Muslim population in that country. In a leading headline which I couldn't access, it states on May the 4th, staunchly Catholic Croatia opened major Islamic centre, Al Arabiya, and that 20,000 Muslims from Croatia massed on the Adriatic coastal port of Rijeka to inaugurate a new Muslim centre. Personally, I'm afraid that it is the Muslims who will take advantage of the EU membership to come to the UK to spread their idea of enrichment. But good point, Freeman, and thanks. UK news. Intervention in Gaddafi's Libya didn't solve the problem, did it? Hundreds of British troops are being prepared to deploy to North Africa to tackle Al-Qaeda-inspired extremists. Under secret plans being drawn up urgently by top brass, UK soldiers would be sent within months to the region to help train the Libyan army. Political and military chiefs have acted amid mounting fears that Libya is rapidly becoming a safe haven for Islamist fanatics after Colonel Gaddafi was toppled in October 2011. But critics have raised concerns that Britain could suffer mission creep and be sucked into yet another bloody war, just as fighting in Afghanistan, which has cost 444 UK lives and is drawing supposedly to a close. Military officers warned that the proposed deployment would risk overstretch as it takes place when the MOD is axing nearly 5,000 soldiers this year, controversially reducing the size of the army from 102,000 to 82,000 men. Too bad benefit ban for non-English speakers doesn't extend to education. More than 1 million school children now do not speak English as their mother tongue, up by nearly 54,000 new official figures reveal. A survey of the nation's classrooms, which provides an accurate snapshot of the composition of schools in England, shows a radical transformation taking place. During the past 5 years alone, the number of pupils without English as a native language has increased by almost 250,000. The figures also show an increase in the number of pupils in England who are classed as being from an ethnic minority background. Now nearly 3 in 10 primary children are in this category. In the last year, the numbers of children who speak English as an additional language have risen by almost 54,000. According to statistics published by the Department for Education, English-speaking children were in a minority in 1,600 schools according to a 2012 census. Foster mum's drunken asylum-seeking thug of 26. Susan Johnson became a foster mother after her daughter left home, but she's faced a cavalier attitude to her safety from the care system. Twice she has had foster children she was incapable of caring for. One Afghan boy turned out to be a chain-smoking man of 26. Another British 15-year-old emptied her bank account of £1,000, but she continues to foster despite her family's objections. Since his arrival 12 days earlier, Farood, an asylum seeker from Afghanistan, had behaved disgracefully. He constantly reeked of alcohol and treated my house like a hostel rather than a home, coming and going as he pleased. But it was his physical strength and raw aggression that I found the most frightening. I'm a 60-year-old widow and retired school secretary, only 5 foot tall, and I live on my own. This boy, on the other hand, was more than 6 foot tall, stocky, and had a demeanour and physical strength beyond his supposed years. Where there should have been spots, there was stubble. Where I'd expected a cowed and frightened child in need of love and a good meal, I found the arrogant and quite frankly terrifying swagger of a grown man. Intimidated and frightened, I quickly stopped trying to enforce any house rules. I could almost see the aggression that bubbled out of Farood. How could I match his brute physicality? Even when I found condoms left casually on his bedside table and received a complaint from my neighbour about him leering at her teenage daughter over the garden fence while he smoked endless cigarettes, I felt powerless to act. But when I tried to raise my concerns with my key worker that Farood wasn't the 16-year-old I'd been told he was, I was fobbed off. Just hang on to him for a couple of more days, I was told, with the assurance everything was being done to look into Farood's background and find a more permanent placement. World at 8 says, this woman needs to put out his belongings in a bag, chuck them out and have the door locks changed and inform the local council about it. Get a lawyer to issue an affidavit forbidding Farood within spitting distance and get over it. What is she, a doormat? European news. Foreign gangs move in on Italy. The Georgian mafia is encroaching on Italian soil, posing a great threat to the country, Italian daily Il Fatto Quotidiano reported on Monday. It's a very serious business, a business that is changing all of our lives, wrote journalist Ferruccio Sanza. The mafia is very dangerous. They are white-collared men with Kalashnikovs under their jackets. The newspaper said the Georgian mafia spends hundreds of millions of dollars and euros in buying hotels and houses in northern Italy, naming the Dolomites as one area infiltrated by the criminal gangs. The allegations come less than 2 weeks after Europol arrested 18 members of the Georgian Kutaisi clan, the majority of which the EU agency said were thieves in law or elite career criminals. 7 of the arrests were made in Italy, the result of an 18-month operation and collaboration between Europol and 6 EU countries. World at 8 says, just wait till the Romanians and Bulgarians hit the streets of the UK and then really welcome the era of enrichment. World news. Mandela's legacy, Boer death. After listening to Wednesday's television news about the health of Nelson Mandela, a South African family living not far from the former president's hospital unit turned in for the night. But Roelof and Laura Plessis, a married couple with 4 children who live on a heavily fortified farm outside Pretoria, did not have a peaceful night's rest. In fact, they were about to become the latest victims of what white pressure groups in this troubled nation say is nothing less than a savage war against them. Hearing noises outside their home, Mr du Plessis, 46, got out of bed and ran outside. To his horror, he found his 19-year-old son being held with a gun to his head by a gang of 5 armed black attackers. Father and son were ordered to lie on the ground. The invaders did not ask for money or the keys to the expensive vehicles in the drive. They were only there to terrorise and to kill. Hearing voices outside, Laura, 44, came out of her bedroom to investigate, and her torch illuminated an awful scene as the gang pointed guns at her husband. Her son managed to get up and sprint off into the darkness when the men were confused by the flashlight, but du Plessis was not so lucky. The intruders opened fire at once, shooting him 6 times through the throat, lungs and abdomen. As he writhed on the ground in agony, the men ran off into the night, leaving empty bullet cartridges littering the yard. In the darkness, Laura attempted heart massage on her husband, who could still talk, despite his appalling injuries, but to no avail. World at 8 says, as I've always said, more evil is done under the name of good men than is done with evil men. The world never suspects the good people. Mandela was an anti-white terrorist and Gandhi was a pervert. We need to wake up to these facts. They never learn, Dutch reporter raped in Cairo's Tahrir Square. Hospital reports Dutch journalist underwent gang rape in Cairo Square several days ago. Reporter released from hospital after undergoing surgery. Egyptian media reported Sunday that a Dutch journalist was raped by several men in Cairo's Tahrir Square a few days ago. Dina Zakaria, a journalist reporting for Egypt 25 news channel affiliated with the January 25 revolution, shared the incident on her Facebook page Sunday. A Dutch journalist in Tahrir was raped by men who dubbed themselves revolutionists. Her condition is severe and she is hospitalised. Meanwhile, a state hospital issued a statement that the journalist was admitted after being raped by 5 men several days ago. She underwent surgery and has been released. It was also reported that Egypt's Prosecutor General Talat Abdallah ordered his staff to go to the hospital to hear the woman's story and reveal the circumstances behind the violent attack. Egyptian women face sexual harassment and assaults on a daily basis. During and after the revolution, there were a number of cases of foreign workers who were sexually assaulted, such as Sonia Dridi and Lara Logan. Sexual harassment is not new within the conservative Egyptian society, yet the extent of this business has grown and become more violent and visible. The Egyptian law defines assault as a crime, but not sexual assault. The United Nations claimed last month that it holds some 25 sexual assault reports that occurred in Tahrir Square, the centre of the protest, in 1 week in the beginning of the year. The organisation dedicated to preventing sexual assaults, whose activists patrol Tahrir Square, reported 19 assaults on January the 25th alone, the second anniversary of the uprising against Hosni Mubarak. Among the reports was also a case of a girl who was raped by a sharp instrument. World8 says, whilst we have sympathy for this woman, she must have known the high risks she was taking by being anywhere near these creatures. She must have known about the American journalist and other women raped, so why did she put herself at risk in this manner? Horrific video shows Syrian Catholic priest being beheaded by jihadist fighters in front of a cheering crowd. A Syrian Catholic priest has been beheaded by jihadist fighters in Syria, it's been claimed. The death of Franciscan Father Francois Murad has been confirmed by the official Vatican news agency. Grainy footage purported to show the 49-year-old gruesome's death has been posted on the internet. Father Francois was killed on the 23rd of June in Ghassanea in northern Syria. He had been staying in the convent of the Custody of the Holy Land. Fides news agency said, according to local sources, the monastery where Father Murad was staying was attacked by militants linked to the jihadi group Jabhat al-Nusra. Commenter, just the type of people we want to arm. How stupid can Western leaders get? Johns RS 67 Norwich, United Kingdom. Thought for the day. Is it just me or them? Now I know that I'm known for my anti-Islamic stance, and there are some people who would like to see another subject aired on this news. As indeed I would, as I'm suffering from a surfeit of Islam at the moment, but the unfortunate truth is that Islam is one of the nastiest problems that we face, not only in the UK but Europe. And if we, or I as a presenter, ignore it or water it down, then I'm part of the problem, not the solution. And I owe it to some of my listeners abroad to tell the truth over what is happening in this country. I'm making every endeavour to make use of your suggestions, and on Friday, apart from the input from Nick Griffin MEP, I will be starting folklore tales from our country, starting with the land of Merlin, which is of course Cornwall, and thankfully there's not a Muslim in sight. But for today there is, with the awful news that on July the 1st the Press Association stated that English is not pupils' mother tongue. And new data reveals more than 1 million youngsters do not have English as their mother tongue, and the numbers have increased by almost 250,000 in the past 5 years. The figures also show an increase in the number of pupils in England who are classed as being from an ethnic minority background, with nearly 3 in 10 primary school children in this category, as previously reported. In the last year alone, the numbers of children who speak English as an additional language have risen by almost 54,000, according to statistics published by the Department for Education. In primary schools, almost 1 in 5 pupils speak another language at home. Overall, the figures show that over 1 million children in England's state primary, secondary and special schools, as well as pupil referral units, had a first language that is known or believed to be other than English. This is up from over 1 million youngsters in 2012, an extra 53,920 pupils. In 2008, around 832,790 children spoke English as a second language, although this figure does not include those being taught in pupil referral units. It means that the numbers have risen by around 227,000 in the last 5 years. A breakdown of the DFE statistics, which are a snapshot of England's schools taken in January this year, show that 18.1% of primary school pupils speak a first language that is not English, along with 13.6% of those in secondary schools, 12.7% of those taught in special schools and 8.7% of those at pupil referral units. Almost 1 million primary school children, 965,110 in total, 28.5%, are considered to be from a minority ethnic background, along with nearly a quarter, 775,710 or 24.2% of those taught in state secondaries, the figures show. Last year, 27.6% of primary age school children and 23.2% of those in secondary schools were classed as being of minority ethnic origin. Now, in any large country this is not good news for our children, let alone on a small island. So in reality, it is not me or us being anti-Islamic, it's realising that there is a very real threat that is in existence to our culture and our country. This isn't being anti-Islamic, it's being rational in the face of a threat not from Islam itself, but from the followers of Islam and their rationale towards non-believers. I was sent an email which I'm going to read, and it's titled, "What is an Infidel?" The author, Rick Matthews, is a well-known leader in prison ministry. The man who walks with God always gets to his destination, and if you have a pulse you have a purpose, bless him. The Muslim religion is the fastest growing religion per capita in the United States, especially in the minority races. Last month I attended my annual training session that was required for maintaining my state prison security clearance. During the training session there was a presentation by 3 speakers representing the Roman Catholic, Protestant and Muslim faiths, who each explained their beliefs. I was particularly interested in what the Islamic Imam had to say. The Muslim gave a great presentation of the basics of Islam, complete with a video. After the presentations, time was provided for questions and answers. When it was my turn, I directed my question to the Muslim and asked, "Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that most imams and clerics of Islam have declared a holy jihad against the infidels of the world, and that by killing an infidel, which is a command to all Muslims, they are assured of a place in heaven. If that's the case, can you give me the definition of an infidel?" There was no disagreement with my statements and, without hesitation, he replied, "Non-believers." I responded, "So let me make sure I have this straight. All followers of Allah have been commanded to kill everyone who is not of your faith so they can have a place in heaven. Is that correct?" The expression on his face changed from one of authority and command to that of a little boy who'd just been caught with his hand in the cookie jar. He sheepishly replied, "Yes." I then stated, "Well sir, I have a real problem trying to imagine the Pope commanding all Catholics to kill those of your faith or Dr. Stanley ordering all Protestants to do the same in order to guarantee them a place in heaven." The Muslim was speechless. I continued, "I also have a problem with being your friend when you and your brother clerics are telling your followers to kill me. Let me ask you a question. Would you rather have your Allah who tells you to kill me in order for you to go to heaven, or my Jesus who tells me to love you because I'm going to heaven and he wants you to be there with me?" You could have heard a pin drop. Needless to say, the organisers and or promoters of the diversification training seminar were not happy with my way of dealing with the Islamic Imam and exposing the truth about the Muslims' beliefs. In 20 years there will be enough Muslim voters in the US to elect the president. I think everyone in the US should be required to read this, but with the ALGLU there's no way this will be widely publicised, unless each of us sends it on. This is your chance to make a difference. For Christ's sake, send this on. And I did, and I have read it. So now you have heard it from the horse's mouth, and it isn't pleasant, is it? You cannot say you don't know what's in store for us if we become lazy or weak, or in our case more so. It isn't racist to worry over what the future might bring, and it isn't anti-Islamic to bring it to everyone's attention every chance we get. That way at least people can't say that they had no idea of what could happen with or under Islam. Now you could say I'm a ranting anti-Islamist, but you would be wrong. I have a lot of respect for people who can operate under a hive mentality and who live by their religion as if it was their culture. Their covetousness of their own women is commendable in one stroke, but diminishes them in another. Their rejection of the sins of the West, such as drink, drugs and prostitution, are commendable, if they didn't operate on another level with these things and make them available to non-believers at a price. So the upshot of this is that I have no quarrel with Muslims living in what are designated as their own countries. I don't even have a quarrel with small pockets of Muslims living in Europe, and note the word small, very small, and not quick growing pockets. But I take exception to the hordes that have taken advantage of an immigrant friendly UK and Europe and are quite honestly taking the piss. As I've said, our infrastructure is not up to giving all and getting nothing in return, as our economic situation is not getting any better in the Western world, and in all honesty we cannot give any foreigners any more in our future. In France, the Front National is making great inroads into the working class areas, and moreover the women of France are turning to another woman for help and advice, which is a turnaround in nationalist circles, which normally view women as a necessary evil, and if not young, barefoot and pregnant, not of much use in the real world. But Marine Le Pen is changing that, and the Telegraph has written a very good article on her and the way forward for perhaps our nationalists to think. This is the part that I think is very far-seeing and was sent to me by our South East Press liaison person, many thanks. Mrs Le Pen is a single mother of 44, more relaxed about gay rights and abortion than she lets on, closer in some ways to the assassinated Dutch populist Pim Fortuyn than her cantankerous father Jean Le Pen, who stepped down as party leader 2 years ago. Mr Le Pen in turn deplores her eclectic modernism as an overlay of petit bourgeois views picked up in Paris schools. She's carried out a quiet purge of the front, pushing known anti-Semites to the sidelines. Vichy nostalgia is out. While her father called the Holocaust an historical detail, she calls it the pinnacle of human barbarism. She courts Jewish favour, aiming her fire at jihadists instead. Political parties are like people. There is adolescence when you do crazy things, and then maturity. We are now ready for power, she said. The campaign of dédiabolisation or image detox seems to have worked. Only a minority of voters still thinks the front is a threat to democracy. Mrs Le Pen is winning over white working class women in droves. The feminised front is no longer the party of the angry white male. The softer image is why Finance Minister Pierre Moscovici describes her as more dangerous than her father. And of course Moscovici is right. Honey catches more flies than vinegar, and Le Pen's stance is right in my eyes and my sympathies. On the World Date earlier in the week we told you about the German city that is spreading the Islamic word by broadcasting a call to prayers every day 5 times a day to show the rest of Europe they are in touch with multiculturalism. Well, this is a load of complete and utter bollocks, isn't it? What has multiculturalism got to do with Islam? By promoting Islam alone, you are not multicultural. You are promoting a single foreign religion in an alien setting. When will people realise this is not a liberal or a wise thing to do? Moreover, not only the Germans are at fault here, but we have our own Channel 4 to broadcast provocative Muslim call to prayer during Ramadan, and this was reported in the Huffington Post UK sheet. So Channel 4 is to broadcast the Muslim call to prayer every morning during Ramadan, a decision which the broadcaster called a provocation to those who only associate the religion with terror and violence. A senior Channel 4 executive said the channel would become the first mainstream British channel to broadcast the call, known as the Adhan, delivered by leading muezzin Hussein Rasool. Weather forecasts will feature sunrise and sunset times to help those fasting and show video diaries of young Muslims during Ramadan. Now I feel personally this is beyond a joke and is in fact a poke in the eye to the British people, who seem to be remarkably patient and long-suffering. Under the guise of reason, why should a supposedly Christian country stop church bells ringing and yet stoop to seemingly promote Islamic priests uttering a wailing and almost obscene call to prayer every day? If the numbers of Muslims in this country are truly according to the official numbers, then why are the British governments allowing their broadcasting channels to do this? Already we have ITV with Arab lettering and all the pictures before the official ITN news show ethnics and not indigenous peoples. Why in the name of everything British are we not only allowing but promoting it? No, let Al Jazeera do it on their channel and the Muslims can hear it there. At no time will it be okay for all and sundry in this country to listen to an alien religion if that is what people view it now as. So whilst we are fighting the good fight, yet another beheading occurred in England in June 2013, much underreported by the way. This was also sent to me by a good source and reported on CBN News in the States, titled before its news by Dale Hurd of CBN News. Lancashire, England. A 20-year-old British man has been arraigned in murder and decapitation on June the 4th of an 18-year-old Sheffield British woman named Rima Ramazan. He said English, but she was British, if that. Haven't heard of it. Up till a few days ago, Ramzan was just a stabbing fatality. Now we learn that Aras Hussein cut off her head. It was the second beheading involving a British Muslim in a little over 2 weeks after the murder and decapitation of British soldier Lee Rigby, May 22nd. This apparent cover-up is an example of what has been a massive orchestrated disinformation campaign by British authorities and their allies in the media to black out or minimise, and in many cases refuse to prosecute, Muslim crimes. I've come to Northern England to investigate how authorities covered up the Muslim sex grooming gang epidemic in which white British girls are made sex slaves of what the authorities euphemistically call Asian gangs. They're Muslim. Astonishingly, police are still not tackling the problem head on, and still more girls will have their lives ruined because of it. The media is also failing to report the depth and breadth of the public fury here over the Rigby murder. If those demonstrations were about some loony left-wing cause, you'd see them splashed across every television screen. Some argue that the British police are in chains to their politically correct bosses in government. No doubt. I think they also fear civil war. But trying to cover up an Islamic crime wave and the anger that is now seething amongst the native English doesn't prevent civil war, it just brings it. Just saying. Well, bless him, he got a few facts wrong, and here is the buried BBC News item from Sheffield from June. A 20-year-old man accused of beheading a woman in a knife attack in Sheffield has appeared in court. Rima Ramzan, 18, was found dead at a house in Herries Road on 4th of June. Aras Hussain of Herries Road appeared at Sheffield Crown Court charged with her murder. He was remanded in custody to appear again on the 5th of September. He has also been charged with assaulting 5 people at the Northern General Hospital, where he was taken following his arrest. Clearly a good Muslim and a pillar of the Islamic faith, but the fact is that this crime was over here and committed within the Islamic community. So just how many more are hidden? Just how prepared are these people to take over our country and our faith? How ready are they? To all anti-Semites and pro-Palestinian nationalists, I would say Jews don't blow up or behead shiksas, and even the Arab League didn't want the Palestinian sheep herders when they had the chance at their own patch of land, so don't preach to the converted here. To be a nationalist means loving your country, not necessarily loving everyone in it. I hope you take my point. I do mean well. And finally, over the hill never. The top 40 signs of a midlife crisis include going to Glastonbury, listening to BBC Six Music and buying an expensive bicycle, a study reveals. The male midlife crisis The male midlife crisis lasts between 3 and 10 years, actually it lasts about 50, whereas women will only suffer the crisis for 2 and 5 years, the study found. Typical signs include looking up ex-partners on Facebook, taking vitamin pills and taking out a direct debit for a charity. Not being able to sleep because of work worries, reading obituaries regularly in the newspaper and taking up new hobbies are also indicators of the crisis. Hair Transplant Centre Crown Clinic, who surveyed 1,000 people, also found people in midlife crisis fret over their hair thinning and diet to cover grey hairs. The term midlife crisis was first coined in 1965, where early analysis suggested it could happen anywhere between the ages of 40 and 60, but is now shown to start much earlier, around about birth. It's linked to younger people beginning their careers earlier, and statistics show the average age of company chief executives has fallen from 59 to 48 in the last generation. You've been listening to The World at 8. I'm Lynn Mozar and I wish you all a very good night.